thanks for taking the time. We'll start with opening thoughts on tonight's draft from you and then go to questions.
Year 3, real excited to come back to Bristol and be a part of this, representing the New York Atlas. A little different draft for us. The first 2 years we had 1 and 2, so we kind of, had our pick. And this year our first pick's at 6, so we're gonna have to wait a little bit before we make a decision there. But we got a couple key spots in our roster we're looking at to upgrade here in the draft, and hopefully with 6 and 14 overall in the first 2 rounds, we can find some guys to fill some needs for us here in 25. So excited to be back, and great to see everybody here today. So thank you.
Coach, your draft last year went, all things considered now in retrospect, pretty well. Connor Schellenberger at 2, you get Liam Eneman at 5. You wind up with an LSM of the year player and Tyler Carpenter all the way in round 4. What would you say was kind of some of the key to success that maybe you found in drafting those players last year that you're trying to bring forward to the draft this year as well?
And also we got Jake Stevens.
Jake Stevens in there too. I don't want to short
yes,
pick.
Sure.
Yeah.
The Carpenter thing, I've had that in my pocket for, the personal relationship with him was part of it too. But, to come out as a 4th round pick, and no way did I think he's going to win the LSM of the year as a rookie. And the credit goes to Tyler. I think having the ability to call these guys, spent a lot of time, made about, 25, 30 player calls, called all the coaches in the country, vetted these guys. Tremendous calls. I mean, like, you're so impressed, like, these guys and their career path and what they want to do and how important the PLL is to them. So that's been so invigorating. You only get 4 picks, and you want to take like 10 of them if you could. But we learned a lot about guys. A lot more guys, it seems, that are doing lacrosse full time. You see less and less of the Wall Street job trying to do this, and more guys playing indoor, outdoor, or just doing lacrosse. Like, Shelley doesn't do indoor, but Shelley does Shelley Inc., Shelley Incorporated. And you see more and more guys taking advantage of that, which is great, for us, because, with the travel, we have the Atlas, we have 3 Friday games in July in a row, which requires, Thursday travel. And if you're punching a clock and your boss is not letting you out till the market closes at 5, that's a tough road. So we've seen more of that, I think, this year in those calls for sure.
Coach, you've been on the record with us talking about how the most important, most difficult job in the PLL is being a GM. What are some things you've learned over the past couple of years that you'll take with you into tonight's draft that you've kind of learned along the way with kind of the bumps and bruises of finding yourself in this GM role and learning, the nuances of it?
I think transparency, being very straight up and being very highly communicating, like just being upfront with the guys and speaking your mind and not sugarcoating it. And 99% of the guys prefer it that way. If I was them, as I was their age, I would want they tell me the truth, coach. You're not going to hurt my feelings. And so I think that's been really good for us. And then just addressing a couple of the contract extensions that we had to get done. No secret here. We named Jeff Teat one of our tri-captains here in 25. Danny Logan, Trevor Baptiste, arguably the 3 best players in the planet at their positions right now. All 3 are captains. All 3 are locked up for 3-year extensions. So for the GM side, the coach was very happy that the GM got that done. So that was great there, and just some other, bringing Miles back was huge. We got a bunch next year. We'll talk about next year down the road, but kind of getting the key pieces back was huge for us in year 3 here.
Coach, last year you had the 2 in the top 5. Schellenberger at 2 felt like it was going to be the thing that happened. Took Liam at the 5th spot, I think. And in that moment, some people thought maybe too early for Liam or reach, but he was a guy you loved and you got your guy. Is there a player you're looking at this year where it's like, I want to make sure I have this guy. This is the guy I love in this class?
there's like there's 5 guys that we're not going to have a shot at. I
Yeah.
think that are going to be gone by the time we pick. And the king at number 1. I mean, probably last year people talked about O'Neal and Shelley maybe one. This year there's no discussion. The best player in college lacrosse by a long shot is certainly CJ, and deservingly so. What you do 2, 3, 4, 5, I think there's like a log jam there. 5 could be 2, 2 could be 5, depending on needs. And obviously the Redwoods have 2 of those picks in there. Do you go for at 6 need, or do you go for the best player available? Still torn on that. We got a couple different scenarios. Stephen Brooks is my draft guy. Brooks is amazing. He did his mock draft, and we've been on the phone for a couple weeks here every day, just saying if they do this, we're going to do that. And there's no nothing etched in stone, obviously at 6. But I think even at 14, there's going to be some guys there too. Is there a Tyler Carpenter in this draft? I don't know. I'm not going to say so. Only time will tell. But we're not interested in really trading either. Like trading up, we talked about that as well. There's a couple key guys we think that are going to be there, and if they're not, we're going to pivot and just go another route.
Coach, you mentioned Stephen Brooks and his value to this organization
He's the
knows
best.
no bounds. How valuable is it to have his brain not only with the styles of lacrosse that he's able to help you coach with the traditional field game, obviously taking the reins at Champ Series, but then also having a draft brain like his and being able to go and scout and see different players that he feels will fit the system that you guys are trying to run.
Brooksy and I, as far as talent goes, we see the world alike, very much so. We seldom differ on needs. I defer to him. 99% of the time, I go with what Steven says. He played in the league. I coached him in 210, at Team USA, and all. Utmost respect for him. Incredible family guy, beloved by the players. Big thing for us. We've had such great staff chemistry, over the last couple of years, and obviously, losing Kevin Understein to family first. 3 kids under the age of 10, that's a big deal, and he made the right move there. But our chemistry in the staff is kind of mirrored the player chemistry, and Brooks is a huge part of that. Our guys adore him, respect him. Great offensive mind, great eye for talent, and just loves the pro game. He loves it, and thrilled to have him back obviously in year 3 too.
Questions on Zoom? Adam?
Coach, you talked about upgrading, a few areas of need for you in this draft. Could you just elaborate, on what those needs might be, or if there's more specifically like a specific, offensive or defensive skill you're looking for with some of these players?
Well, I think it's not so much what you're thinking about in the 19, you're thinking about in the 25. We kind of have the 19-20, I think, figured out right now. It's, those other 4 guys and having some depth, if somebody goes down. You got to have another attackman in there. We love our, with Shelley, Teat, and Dixon, Cormier's in the mix. We're going to need another, attack player of some kind in the 25 for injury. It's a long summer. We need another defensive midi. We've been riding those 3, Danny Logan, Peyton Rizanka, and Chet Camizio. We're going to need another D midi in there. There's some really great poles. There's a couple guys that can swing and play, LSM and close guy. And when you only dress 5 poles, having guys in a pinch that can play each position, like there's certain close defensemen. There's a lot of them that cannot play up top, and there's guys up top that can't play behind. And then fortunately for us, I don't have to worry about the face-off guy this year and/or the goalie position this year. So just kind of concentrating on those field players in front of the goal.
Other questions on Zoom? Dan, Kyle?
Coach, you made some signings in free agency as well. Brought in the likes of CJ Costabile, Kyle Jackson. When you bring players of that caliber into an organization, how much does that affect, if at all, your approach to your draft board and what you're going to do tonight in bringing players in as well, even though you filled some spots in free agency with some veterans?
I remember my first year in the league, talking about Costabile here, right? I thought CJ in 23 was the best LSM in the. I mean, Earhart won it, but he's pretty good too. But when we played him, and I have some history, the Duke thing. You know, he's from Connecticut. I'm from Connecticut, so had a strong, affection for CJ, and he still wants to. 35 years old. He's got a lot of juice in the tank. So picking that up was a no-brainer, for us. And then same year, Kyle Jackson with the Chaos. He had 3 against us in my first year. I go, wow. And like those guys just made such an impression on me after playing them. And then, Kyle is so versatile, great indoor player, can play attack in a pinch. And you're thinking about those lefties. We want to make sure we got plenty of lefties over there for number 7. So you got a Jackson, you have Bowring's coming back, Cole Williams, a big lefty in there. So we kind of filled that stable. Cormier's a lefty, but Cormier's more of an inside guy and not a two-man guy. So, that was a huge part of, the free agent process, fulfilling that side of the field to play alongside of number 7.